You have spent 40 years over-engineering relationships that were designed to fail, and you thought you were being strong. Every time you tried to fix a broken person with logic, every time you poured concrete into a foundation built on lies, every moment you wasted defending your integrity to people who sold theirs long ago. You weren't building a legacy, you were propping up a collapsing structure with your own peace. But today, the blueprint changes. I am about to reveal 5 Machiavellian laws that will transform you from a target into a fortress. These are not suggestions. They are structural imperatives refined by centuries of power dynamics. Machiavelli understood what most engineers miss, that the strongest wall is not the one that fights every arrow, but the one that stands so silent and so solid that the enemy exhausts themselves trying to break it. In the next few minutes, we are going to stop reacting and start designing. You will learn how to command respect without demanding it, how to dismantle enemies without lifting a finger, and how to become so psychologically self-contained that manipulation becomes impossible. If you are ready to stop leaking energy and start accumulating power, drop this affirmation in the comments. I am the architect. Let's begin. Law number 1, the scarcity protocol. Let's dismantle the first myth that keeps you trapped in a cycle of depletion, the belief that availability equals value. In the world of structural engineering, we know a fundamental truth about supply and demand. If a material is abundant, like sand on a beach, it has almost zero value. You can walk on it, kick it, ignore it. But if a material is rare, like titanium or refined gold, it becomes the backbone of skyscrapers and the standard of wealth. Your presence operates on this exact same economic principle. When you are always available, always responding instantly to every text, always ready to explain your side of the story to anyone who asks, you are flooding the market with yourself. You are turning your own life into sand. You become commodity noise in a crowded room, easily ignored and easily replaced. Niccolo Machiavelli understood this dynamic of human psychology 500 years ago. In The Prince, he observed that leaders who commanded the most fear and loyalty were not the ones who mingled constantly with their subjects, laughing in the taverns and sharing every thought. No, the most revered princes were those who appeared rarely, spoke little, and revealed themselves only when absolutely necessary. Their scarcity created a vacuum, and as any physicist will tell you, nature abhors a vacuum. People rush to fill that emptiness with respect, with curiosity, and eventually with obsession. Think about the last time someone ignored your message for 3 days. Did you forget them? No. You checked your phone, you wondered what they were doing. You assigned them immense importance precisely because they withheld their attention. Now, contrast that with the person who replies within seconds, who is eager to chat, who never says no. Do you chase them? No. You take them for granted because their supply is infinite. Here is the strategic shift you must make today. Stop treating your attention like an unlimited resource. It is finite, precious, and non-renewable. Every time you engage with a troll, every time you argue with a family member who thrives on drama, every time you justify your professional decisions to a colleague who is secretly sabotaging you, you are inflating the supply of your presence and crashing its value. The power player creates artificial scarcity. They do not answer immediately. They do not attend every meeting. They do not offer explanations unless it serves a specific tactical advantage. When you withdraw your availability, you force the world to recalibrate. Suddenly, your words carry weight because they are rare. Your presence becomes an event rather than a given. People stop testing your boundaries because they realize access to you is a privilege, not a right. This is not about playing childish games. It is about recognizing your own worth. If you treat your time as cheap, the world will treat you as cheap. If you treat your attention like gold, the world will pay the price to hold it. Start acting like a limited edition. Make them work for the audience. Make them earn the reply. When you become scarce, you become indispensable. Drop this affirmation in the comments. My presence is a privilege. Law number 2, the void strategy. This is where most good people fail, and it is often their greatest weakness, an addiction to closure. You're addicted to being want to set the story straight. You want to set the story straight. You want justice. You want them to look at you and say, "Oh, I see. I misunderstood." Listen closely. That day will never come, and by chasing it, you are handing them the remote control to your mental state. You are engaging in a battle on terrain that favors them, not you. Machiavelli taught that the greatest victory is the one where the enemy defeats themselves. When you respond to an attack, you validate the attacker. You're essentially saying, your opinion matters enough for me to stop my life, halt my progress, and address your nonsense. You give them a stage. You give them an audience. You give them energy. But when you meet aggression with absolute void-like silence, you create a psychological vacuum. Human brains are wired to seek patterns and resolution. We need cause and effect. When you throw a punch and hit air, you stumble. When you scream into a void and hear nothing back, you begin to scream louder. Then you begin to doubt yourself. Then you begin to unravel. Imagine a scenario relevant to your world. A competitor spreads a lie about your compliance record at work. The old you sends a frantic email to HR, copies everyone, attaches 10 documents, and writes a passionate defense of your integrity. What happens? The lie gets discussed. The drama spreads. You look defensive. You look worried. You have kept the story alive. The new you say nothing. You continue working. You produce results. You smile in the hallway. By refusing to engage, you signal that the lie is so beneath you, so irrelevant to your reality, that it doesn't even register on your radar. Machiavelli warned against the trap of words. He saw countless men destroy themselves by talking too much, explaining too much, reacting too much. He noted that the man who speaks reveals his hand, his fears, and his weaknesses. The man who remains silent keeps his enemy guessing until the enemy exposes their own weakness out of frustration. The liar is left standing there, holding a bag of trash, waiting for a reaction that never comes. Eventually, the silence becomes awkward for them. They start to wonder if anyone believed them. They start to look unstable for bringing it up in the first place. Silence is not passive. It is an aggressive act of erasure. It tells the other person, "You do not exist in my narrative." There is no pain greater for a manipulator than being treated as invisible. They want conflict. They want drama. They want to be the villain in your story. Deny them the role. Refuse to cast them. When you stop feeding the fire, it doesn't just go out. It leaves a scar of embarrassment on the person who tried to light it. Stop explaining yourself to people who are committed to misinterpreting you. Let them talk to the wall. Let them exhaust themselves, screaming into the vacuum. Your silence is the loudest thing in the room. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I owe no explanation. Law number 3, the emotional firewall. We need to talk about your emotional triggers. In the language of coding and robotics, these are security vulnerabilities. These are the cracks in your armor where the world gets in. Maybe it's being called incompetent. Maybe it's being excluded from a decision. Maybe it's seeing someone else take credit for your work, something you know all too well from your time in the industry. Whatever it is, that trigger is a remote control, and everyone around you has the batteries. As long as you react emotionally, you are a puppet. Pull the string, and you jump. Push the button, and you explode. Machiavelli observed that the most dangerous ruler is not the one with the biggest army, but the one who cannot be provoked. He saw that leaders who ruled by passion were easily manipulated. Their anger made them predictable. Their pride made them controllable. Their enemies simply had to push the right button to make them self-destruct. Indifference is not the absence of feeling. It is the mastery of it. It is the ability to observe an insult, analyze its intent, and choose not to internalize it. Think of it as building an emotional firewall. Oh, firewall doesn't fight the virus. It doesn't send an army to destroy the hacker. It simply refuses to let the malicious code execute. It separates the internal system, your peace, your logic, your stability, from external threats. When you become indifferent, you become a mirror. You reflect their chaos back at them without absorbing any of it. They throw anger. You return calm. They throw confusion. You return clarity. They throw desperation. You return stillness. And nothing frustrates a chaotic person more than a calm target. Think about the dynamic in your own life. Perhaps there is a family member who thrives on guilt trips, maybe using health scares or fabricated crises to pull you in. They call, they cry, they accuse you of not caring. If you get angry, they win. They have controlled your mood. If you get defensive, they win. They have made you the bad guy. But if you listen with total neutrality, acknowledge their words without accepting their burden, and move on with your day unchanged, you break the cycle. They are left holding their own emotions. They have nowhere to dump them. Building this firewall requires you to identify what hurts you and then desensitize yourself to it. Ask yourself, does this person's opinion change my reality? If the answer is no, then their words are just noise. Does their disrespect alter your truth? No. Then let it pass through you like wind through a screen. When you stop reacting, you strip them of their power. They try harder, pushing your buttons, expecting the old version of you to show up. When the old you doesn't appear, they get confused. Then they get tired. Then they leave. You don't have to fight them off. You just have to refuse to play. Be the stone in the river. The water rushes around you, noisy and turbulent, but you remain unmoved, solid, and dry. That is true power. That is the state of being untouchable. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I observe, I do not absorb. Law number 4, strategic stasis. In a world obsessed with hustle, with constant movement, with doing something, the most radical act is to do nothing. But let me be clear, this is not laziness. This is strategic stasis. It is the strategic decision to let events unfold without your interference, knowing that time is often a better ally than force. Most people feel the need to fix every problem, solve every conflict, and correct every injustice immediately. They burn themselves out fighting battles that would have resolved themselves if they had just waited. In civil engineering, we know that sometimes the strongest move is to hold the load and let gravity do the work. If you intervene too early, you often destabilize the structure. You reveal your hand. You commit resources to a situation that might have dissolved on its own. Machiavelli knew that fortuna, luck, or time, is like a violent river. When it floods, it destroys everything in its path. But he also taught that when the weather is calm, men can build dams and channels to control its future course. The key is patience. He argued that rushing to act often leads to ruin, while waiting for the right moment leads to victory. Consider a workplace rumor mill or a regulatory audit. The instinct is to hunt down the source, confront the gossips, and demand a retraction. This only validates the rumor. It makes it the center of attention. The strategy of calculated inaction dictates that you do nothing. You continue to perform at a high level. You remain consistent. Over time, the lack of fuel causes the rumor to die. The people who spread it look foolish because their narrative didn't match the reality they saw every day. You didn't have to lift a finger. Your consistency did the work. This applies to personal conflicts, too. Sometimes, the best response to a provocation is to simply wait. Let the other person dig their own grave. Let them overplay their hand. Let them reveal their true colors to everyone else while you stand back and watch. When you rush to defend yourself, you often obscure the truth. When you stay silent and let the situation play out, the truth rises to the surface naturally. Patience is a form of aggression. It shows that you are so secure in your position that you don't need to scramble. You trust the process. You trust your own integrity. Strategic stasis also conserves your energy for the moments that truly matter. Why waste your ammunition on small skirmishes when you can save it for the war? Why engage in petty drama when you could be building your legacy? By choosing not to act, you are actually acting with supreme intention. You are curating your life, removing the unnecessary friction, and allowing only the essential to remain. Stop trying to control everything. Stop trying to fix everyone. Let the universe handle the details. Your job is to maintain your course, keep your head high, and let the chaos swirl around you until it settles. The person who can wait the longest without flinching is the person who wins. Drop this affirmation in the comments. Time is my ally. Law number 5, surgical excision. Finally, we arrive at the most difficult but necessary law, surgical excision. There are people in your life who are not just neutral. They are actively detrimental. They are energy vampires, saboteurs, and chronic victims who feed on your light. Society tells you to be forgiving, to give second chances, to try to fix them. Machiavelli would tell you that is a recipe for destruction. You cannot fix broken people, and you cannot reason with those who benefit from your confusion. In medicine, you do not argue with a tumor. You do not try to convince it to be healthy. You remove it to save the patient. The only winning move is to erase them. This does not mean a dramatic confrontation. It does not mean a big speech about why you are cutting them off. That is still engagement. That is still giving them a scene. Strategic excision is quiet, surgical, and permanent. Machiavelli was ruthless about removing threats to the state. He advised that injuries should be inflicted all at once so they are less tasted, while benefits should be given little by little. Apply this to your life. Cut ties instantly and completely. Do not drag out the pain. Remove the corrupt component to save the whole machine. Think of your life as a complex infrastructure project you have spent decades designing. Would you leave a faulty beam in place, hoping it would strengthen? Would you keep a crew member who was drilling holes in the hull? No. You would remove them immediately for the safety of the whole. Do the same for your life. Be ruthless in protecting your circle. Be uncompromising in your standards. If they do not add value, if they do not bring peace, if they do not respect your sovereignty, they must go. This is about protecting the integrity of your organization, your life. Subtly, think of the times you've seen families torn apart by lies, by faked illnesses, by greed. The only way to survive is to excise the source of the infection. You stop answering their calls. You stop reading their messages. You stop attending events where they are present. You remove them from your mental space. You stop talking about them. You stop thinking about them. You delete their number, archive their emails, and close the door. Why is this so powerful? Because it denies them the one thing they crave, relevance. When you cut someone off dramatically, they become the martyr. They tell everyone how cruel you were. But when you simply fade them out, when you treat them like a ghost, they have no story to tell. They are left screaming into a void where no one is listening. They become irrelevant. This is the ultimate punishment for a narcissist or a manipulator. Not hatred, but indifference. Not anger, but oblivion. Think about the space this creates in your life. Every minute you spend worrying about a toxic person is a minute stolen from your potential. When you erase the unworthy, you make room for the worthy. You clear the clutter. You sanitize your environment. Fade them out. Delete them. Move on. Your future self will thank you for the space you created. Drop this affirmation in the comments. I erase what drains me. We have dismantled the myths of engagement. You now hold the blueprint for the scarcity protocol, the void strategy, the emotional firewall, strategic stasis, and surgical excision. These are not merely concepts. They are the structural laws of an untouchable life. For too long, you believed power was loud, reactive, and desperate. You thought you had to fight for your seat at the table. But the truth is, the most powerful force in any system is the one that remains unmoved. You are no longer a participant in other people's chaos. You are the architect of your own sovereignty. The path forward requires discipline. It demands you sit with the discomfort of silence and resist the urge to fix what was designed to break. But the reward is absolute freedom. You have spent 40 years building infrastructure across Ontario. Now, build your life with that same precision. Are you ready to stop leaking power? Are you ready to become the fortress? If yes, prove it. Go to the comments and type, I am untouchable. Seal that promise. Then go out and live it. Guard your peace. Protect your energy. And never apologize for owning your power. Stay sharp. Stay silent. Stay untouchable.